From your Fake Truth Show. It's that show about, actually, what is that show about? It's, okay, let me see, right? Let's see if it's talking about Instagram and shit.
Yo, what up? What is happening? What is the word? Bird? Is the word bird? Do you know about the word? I'm wondering if you do. I mean, when people say the word, it depends on your background, what you've been getting into. You might be thinking about the word of God right now. You might just be thinking about the bird and Family Guy. I guess it all depends on your personal cross section of existence, right? The information flying at you, you have to filter it directly through, whatever you thought, whatever idea you had. What's happening, Jet 888? It's good to see you. Heart back to you. Yeah, see, I always appreciate a little chat, chat. It gets the people going. It's nice to have sort of a whatever you want to call this show. I think part of it is the community aspect, I think part of it is that I don't often go through my emails. I have to admit, there's a bunch of other stuff that is happening in my life, but I do go through the emails every once in a while, and I was very pleased to receive an email like this. I have redacted this person's information to protect their identity. Because who knows? What the watchers are gonna. I don't want anybody to get gang stalked, especially this random dude. So, right. But he says, or she says, I don't know, what's going on with that aspect of this person, but they say, hello, good morning. Wait, let me change the voice.
Hello, good morning. My name is Blank. I'm from Blank, and I love your YouTube channel. Happy emoji face.
See, like that's a good email to receive, right? Because obviously it took that person a second to come up with that, but not like a lot of time, and then that gives like a good feeling back, on my end. So all of that is really appreciated. I'm not even saying you like should write me an email specifically, but I don't know. Everything, at least in my personal existence these days, everything seems to be sort of agenda driven, right? And every time you get a text or just have any sort of communication from somebody, it's there's always like something that they want from you, like they want to get followers or maybe they just want you to like write your paper for you or do all the research or take credit for what you're doing or get you to do something just for no money for the exposure or something like that. Sometimes it's nice to just put out some good energy because I feel like that'll bounce around there as well. Because all of this stuff sort of reverberates through your lives and the lives of others. Every time you like put out some good energy without like specifically wanting something in return, then yeah, that's gonna bounce around. But it seems like, these days at least, there's a lot more of the quid pro quo kind of aspect, which, I get that. I get that. I get that. Yeah, right, Jet, Triple Eight. I appreciate you contributing anyways, just, I think we got to fight back against it the best we can. So, right. The news is just so exhausting these days. That's my feeling about the whole thing. Everything is just this grind towards some inevitable, painful ending. Or maybe not. Maybe it's all just gonna sort of work out in the end. UK productivity slowdown worse since industrial revolution, according to this study. Now that's a pretty damning rebuke for the whole Brexit story, right? This is it's already just destroying their economy, industrial slowdown, right? They found that growth trends are the worst since the 1930s. Slowdown in Britain's productivity. Now, do they have a reason why, though? Because that's always what I'm curious about these days. You put up a headline and you're like, this thing is happening. I'm trying to zoom in, but it's just, I don't know if it's gonna, there we go, nice. Now, right, I tend to head towards the bottom of the article, the part that is, usually not read. And, right, I'm sure it would get into something about how this has a lot of other factors just, outside of Brexit, but that obviously it's going to be a really good story for Brexit and how everything's falling apart. I would think anything like this would take decades to sort of evolve to. But maybe, yeah, it is all completely Brexit's fault. But I'm seeing a lot of, right, 2010s. The 2010s are also 4 times as bad as Edwardian climactic depression, right? I guess it's worse. But the facts, right? They can throw a bunch of these numbers around. The point is the story that they're trying to tell. The idea that if you try to escape from the collective happy power group that would be the EU or any other sort of large governing body, the bad times are coming for you. That was obviously a really dumb thing, and this whole Brexit thing just in general seems to be just more learning material for the idea that we really all need to band together. That really is most of what you see in the news these days is just argument after argument for why we have to just let go of certain freedoms and our privacy and all that other kind of stuff. And yeah, exactly, Jet. Join the hive mind. We do have to get all of our brains together. And obviously, that's going to happen sooner or later. Well, that's the question, right? Whether people will really swallow this. It remains to be seen. Now, I'm not saying I care about the Super Bowl a whole lot. I'm not even going to say that I watched any of it. Not even the halftime show. So, right, if you came looking for some expert breakdown of what happened at the Super Bowl as far as the symbology, yeah, did not prepare that. But that's sort of the theme of this show going forward. We will discover certain things together at the same time, right? A lot of this stuff you don't really need to break down that heavily. Obviously, everybody's wearing red, and everybody seems to have black hair except for the main girl. Have this X pattern. I mean, I think the symbolism of red is all pretty well and clear. Good old Shakira, right? And a veritable army of female dancers, right? This whole female march to wherever we're going. It really shows up in everything these days. I obviously with all those types of topics, a difficult thing to talk about, but right, and obviously, why not have a huge female grouping of dancers? I guess with these other sort of rapper dudes hanging around the background, obviously, why not? But there is a sort of unbalancing that, you can obviously feel it. We're going to get into it in the show in a second. And apparently, this weird rapper dude sort of showed up midway through, Mr. Bad Bunny. And he was singing some Cardi B, right? Which again, it wasn't a rapper actually being, even though it was male, it wasn't, right? He didn't even have his own music. He was singing the much better, more fantastic music of a female hip hop artist. Yeah, I don't know, it's almost impossible to even talk about this subject these days as a male. You're encouraged, I guess, not to. I don't know, I guess, yeah, I'll have to think about it a little bit more, how to properly discuss, calmly this whole gender issue. And but the inevitable rise of the female and as a power figure in basically all of media, and how, just basically the effects that will have on everybody's psyche when you're watching a movie or a TV show or a political event or anything really these days, that you will see a powerful female there in the front as opposed to a powerful male. The male will be considered toxic usually, or beta. It's right. I'm not sure what the proper behavior is these days, honestly. Jennifer Lopez apparently rode this pole, right? And pole dancing, I guess, is also something that strong females do, right? Pole dancing is more of a sport now these days, and something to be done at the Super Bowl, something to aspire to. I guess this is a different grouping here. Then apparently these people showed up, right? This guy kind of looks like a tool. His pants are stupid. I don't know why his glasses are so big. Right? She obviously seems more powerful, more intelligent, just better equipped for a halftime show. And this all happened, I mean, on this palindrome day. Obviously, a lot of ritual things happening around this whole event. And that's the thing, I'm sure I could have spent multiple days just looking into what was happening here. But as with the nature of all media these days, you're encouraged to let it just wash over you without any sort of proper analysis and move on to the next thing, because this whole halftime thing is already old news. I guess maybe you could watch some of the commercials, but I guess go Puerto Rico. Same story as the Brexit, right? It really it doesn't matter where you're looking. It all has the same message, I guess. And then if you can manage to sort of break it down and see where they're trying to push you, right? All of this is the exact opposite of that email that I got, right? With a simple sort of compliment or just basic statement. All of this is not, it's all charged, right? She comes out in her flag coat, Puerto Rico, highlighting the suffering and the idea that, right, maybe it's not working out, the system that we have here, this whole thing with US and the territories. Like, there's a huge injustice going down. And yeah, I guess people would be talking about something like this, where she's got the neon kids in cages. And Tom Moore says props, right? Good call for, right? They were singing Born in the USA and they got the kids in cages. Okay, now I'm finally putting it together. This is obviously got to be majorly inflammatory. And yeah, something you would do at a halftime show if you were going to highlight some sort of political moment. There's really not enough time to go into this whole kids in cages aspect. But, you know, suffice it to say that is this whole narrative is also sort of distorted and untrue in many ways, and being used to leverage you into a direction of thinking and opinion of X or X. Important to always, I don't know, keep your defenses up, whatever that means these days. Now, I don't know how deeply you are into the whole, right? You could go anywhere from there. It's really hard to know what people, like what their knowledge base is at any given moment. I guess we are all at some different point on that journey. We don't know exactly where we are at any given moment, right? The information is just flowing through you, and your ideas about things are constantly shifting and changing, right? So I don't know where you are with the president and how awesome that guy is that he's playing 4D chess, or if he's just another part of the big cabal, or if what they say on the news is true and he's just a big mean man that keeps saying mean bad stuff and trying to like steal stuff and being just a total dick face, and he needs to be stopped. Maybe that's your opinion of the man. It's hard to know, but I still thought this was interesting because a lot of his blunders are really sort of coded things for other pointing at. It's worth checking out. It's Many Fish, that YouTube channel, and he had a thing about Kansas and Jericho, that old TV show, and nukes getting shot off, and how there was a lot of numerology all lining up with the Super Bowl and Kansas, and the fact that the Chiefs are not even in Kansas, right? But Trump was congratulating these people from the great state of Kansas, but they're not. It's not Kansas. It's Kansas City, right? Kansas City's like right on the border, I guess, of these two states. It is kind of confusing, right? And just interesting to look at the numbers: 31-20, 49ers, 50 years. I'm not gonna say I'm an expert at any of that kind of stuff, but the numbers just really scream out at me these days. They're always so primely placed. What is it about that? And if we want to just keep with politics for a second here, right? John Kerry overheard discussing possible 2020 bid amid concern of Sanders taking down the Democratic Party. So scary, man. We can't let that socialist take over the government. That is just not allowed. That is not something that we're going to allow. because that guy's a socialist. And so, right, I never thought in a million years that they would just let Bernie Sanders walk into this nomination because, right, according to this whole grand narrative, this whole thing, he's not pulling with the home team, even though a lot of what he is talking about is collective sort of support and action. But he's not part of the Democratic Party. He's not with all the good ideals of, like, I don't know, democratic things, giving money to the banks and just supporting business and all those kind of, all of our favorite agendas that we all love to go along with, that whole hive mind thing. He is not down with a bunch of that, so they're obviously going to have to take him down. And whether it's Bloomberg or Biden or this guy, I guess they're just going to keep pulling out more until they get Hillary out at the end. I bet they're gonna. I get this feeling that they're gonna release Hillary, just like right at the end, like I don't know, July or something, and she's just gonna sprint to the finish before anything can stick to her and before she can get too tired, and then she'll finally get in there. That's my vibe, at least. I don't know if that's actually true. Right, but obviously this whole kids in cages thing was awesome, is what you're supposed to think, according to these people. Awesome. Nothing could possibly be better. Look at these powerful women, gold and silver. Don't you want to be just like them? Don't they look happy? Oh, it looks like Jet's headed out, but it's great to hear from you in the chat, Jet. I appreciate you taking the time, your time and energy. Whoever reaches back out, I'm trying to put my energy out there and see what comes back. So, JLo. Now, that's enough of the news. I really just don't have much patience. I don't have much patience for the news these days. I don't know why. Let's jump back over. Let's jump back over to my list over here. Now, I've been watching this weird, and that's what's on the cover. I've been watching this weird Brazilian sort of. I guess it's the first season. They'll probably do another season. That's the vibe I'm getting. And it's called Omniscient. And this show, I mean, it's sort of sleekly, beautifully made. Obviously, they had all their nice cameras, and the acting's definitely pretty wooden. But I'm wondering if maybe that's just sort of the style. But the show's kind of hilarious because, right, a lot of these shows, a lot of these ideas, they're all about sort of normalizing the world that we have today, especially the things that are maybe sort of super fucked up and wrong and should change. And well, this show, I don't know, does a pretty good job of that. It's all about this little city, I guess, and it's super similar to that 3% with that other Brazilian show that they had on Netflix, which makes me think this is sort of a common tactic over there to get people to, move towards the hive, because they're obviously at a different state of progression than America or Europe or China or anyone else. So they have different tactics and different effects to push them onto their next stage, right? Because this is a big project, and having it happen all over the world, it's not all happening at the same time, obviously. So, but in this show, they have this little city, and this perfect city where everybody's followed around by these little mini drones that you can kind of vaguely see and hear them whirring around you, but they're always just following you around and videotaping you. But the secret is that the secret to the system is that nobody can actually access the footage. It's all sort of blockchained behind closed doors. There's some sort of quantum computer that's crunching all the numbers. Nobody actually gets to see the footage. But then, obviously it's a show, so things go wrong. Somebody gets murdered, and the system doesn't see them getting murdered, right? Because that's the point in this show, that all punishment and yeah, basically all punishment is automated. The drones are just sort of watching you go around in your life, and if you break something or hurt somebody, the drones just use their algorithms, and then they know what you did last summer, and then they just totally wreck you. You have to go to jail usually for like knocking over stuff. That's what happens in the show. At least she like knocks over a statue and then has to pay like $15,000 or something. So obviously doesn't seem good, and it's not exactly like portrayed as good in the show. And this is like the main girl in the show. She like works at the company where they make the robots, and so did her dad, and the dad gets murdered. The dad totally gets murdered. And what's the deal with that? He helped create this whole system, right? And I'm sure that's coming out as some cliffhanger in the last second. That, well, I mean, I could just, I'm here for spoilers, right? You guys aren't actually going to watch these shows, so it's obviously some lady that works at the company that killed the dad for power and all that kind of stuff, and she has to avenge. These frames, I was really trying to get a good shot because they look so flirtingly, right? But this is sort of a conversation. This is the main guy that killed the dad. They like go over to his house and try to fuck with him. But it's interesting body language in this show because they're always like having conversations with each other, and then they will look up at the actual camera. What's up, Kelsey? The show is called Omniscient or Omnisciente or whatever it is in Portuguese. It should be on Netflix. In a web browser near you. 6 episodes. I don't know if I would actually recommend it, but still is sort of interesting exploration of this topic of mass surveillance, right? Because they have these little drones just following you around everywhere, and a lot of the shots are like from the drone, where we see this sort of like, yeah, they're analyzing their behavior and right, and this is how she like she's able to trick the computer. She like pretends that she just loves drilling into walls, and then the computer is like, damn, this chick loves drilling. Like she's super into drilling, because she just drills every single day when she comes home. So then she's able to like drill into the mainframe without setting off the computer. It's definitely like some logic flaws in the whole system, right? Because the whole idea is that nobody has access to the footage anymore. Therefore, nobody knows how to do police work anymore. Therefore, when somebody gets murdered, it's like, oh, damn, what do we do? So she figures out how to get the footage and then sees who did it. Did I get this? It's like too zoomed in. And obviously with everything, even with a Brazilian Netflix show, well, obviously with a Brazilian Netflix show, the numerology is going to be playing its role. They live in apartment 34, and right, that number means something to me. I don't know if it means something to you, but it's obviously has its reasons and its power, and is not something that is just left in by chance, because this is a very carefully crafted, like cinematographically beautiful show. There's nothing on accident happening in any of these frames. So don't give me that argument. It's just a coincidence. They work on the 12th floor. I thought that was also interesting. This omniscient, all-seeing eye, panopticon, whatever you want to call it. 12th floor. And the symbol, can you see that? The symbol is also interesting, this sort of dragonfly thing. I don't know, I had some sort of fantasy about, some antiquitech that they actually Because I remember reading some story that, way back in the day, in like I said, in Arabia, in the Arabian Nights, that's something that the Persian cultures were able to have these sort of wind up mechanical birds that could fly around. That was like actually a thing. Yeah, they look like these little dragonfly guys. And that's right. Just in keeping on the gender topic, I was not surprised in any meaningful way to have the main male protagonist in the show be this extremely effeminate soy boy with no job, unable to sort of take care of himself, an emotional wreck, sleeping in his food truck, and just generally being a total loser. That's exactly the kind of guys that you want to have on television. Something to aspire to, I would say. Damn. Now, my watermark thing seemed like a good idea at the time. It's interesting when they get to the final central mainframe of this whole computer that it's this starry sort of shimmering thing. Actually, that was sort of helping with the shimmering. Yeah, it's kind of shimmering like that. They're inside the mainframe. And again, it's a different country, it's a different culture, but still with all these same symbols, these ideas of the quantum computer coming to save us. Wait, keep the beat going. Press spacebar. Damn, I'm always pressing spacebar. Always pressing spacebar.
Spacebar, that's a button that I press on accident. Sometimes man, just look at this sidebar, looking like a fucking loser. Why don't you go and just cry, you stupid? I'm sorry, I didn't really mean that. Now I feel bad for insulting that guy. Well, what can you do? Sorry,
Anyways, as always, that about does it for this today's episode. I hope your brain is doing all right. Mine's a little fried. I got too many data points that I have to hold in my mind. It's not good for the philosophizing, and obviously something I realize is by design. You really don't want people with free mental space in this world, in this climate. You don't want to give them any extra time to daydream, because really bad things could come out of that. Just in general, bad things, right? You might try to go hack into a quantum supercomputer if you had too much free time, right? These are the kind of things that maybe you would end up doing. You might like start a YouTube channel, and just start spewing all sorts of just subversive messages, and just getting those messages into people's minds and having them actually go and change their behavior. That's the kind of thing people do when they have too much free time. Maybe you go start like a Ponzi scheme. I guess you could start like one of those phone scams where you call grandmas, you get the data from, I don't know, Facebook or something. You just buy those phone numbers and then you start calling up grandmas, and then you start fucking with those grandmas. You maybe take all their money. That's something maybe you could do. What are other cool things you could do? I don't know. Start a religion. And just, before I drift into complete insanity here, I want to call attention to the fact that this TV show is mentioning a cover-up. That this is something that is talked about constantly in entertainment as normal, as something that happens all the time, that companies try to cover things up or bury the truth, do something horrible, and then not let it out, murder people to keep things from getting out. But as soon as anybody goes around suggesting that this might be happening IRL, you just get this cognitive dissonance, this idea that, like, nah, why would those big ass companies do anything to hurt us? They love us. They just want what's best for us. They don't want to cover stuff up. I mean, they would admit it, wouldn't they? Yeah.
Keep it real. Take it easy. Don't let the big bugs bite. Don't let them bite. Stop. Here's the stuff. I'm gonna press